Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we're unpacking what is essentially a masterclass in building a real, substantial financial safety net. But I gotta warn you right up front, this isn't gonna be warm and fuzzy. We're taking an intense, completely unsentimental approach to building capital, because honestly, it's absolutely necessary for the economic reality we're operating in today. Let's start with a really stark reality. Right now, you are losing a game you didn't even know you were playing. See, every single day you leave your cash just sitting there in a standard checking account, it's actively shrinking. Not because someone's hacking your password and stealing it, no. It's because the entire financial system is literally designed to punish inertia. If you're standing still in this economy, you are actually moving backward. We've all heard the traditional playbook for saving money, right? Cut back on the daily lattes, maybe cancel a streaming service or two, clip some coupons. But when we compare those old rules to our 2026 reality, well, that advice is a decade old, and frankly, it's entirely dead. Minor frugality today is quite literally a drop of water on a house fire. The rules of money have fundamentally shifted, and the playbook you were handed growing up is completely obsolete. Now, what's really interesting about this is a concept called frictionless spending. Because if you're struggling to save, it's not just some lack of personal discipline. You're actually operating inside a highly engineered environment. Think about it for a second. You can buy almost anything on Earth with a quick double tap of your phone's power button. Your face authorizes the transaction instantly. The actual psychological pain of physically handing over cash has been systematically erased by the world's most valuable corporations. So relying on sheer willpower, it's completely useless when a pricing algorithm can predict your impulses far better than you ever could. Let's walk through some incredibly uncomfortable math here. When we look at the timeline from 2020 to 2026, the cost of basic existence is spiking upward like a steep mountain peak. It's wild. Meanwhile, average wages are just dragging flatly along the bottom. And that widening gap, that perfectly illustrates how the buffer zone between having a comfortable month and a full-blown financial emergency has completely evaporated for the average household. And that brings us to this terrifying number, 16. If you try to save a basic emergency fund of, say, $5,000 using those traditional methods we talked about earlier, it's going to take you 16 months of miserable deprivation. And let's be real, we do not have 16 months to get secure. We need to drastically compress that timeline, which is exactly why we have to build what we call a counter system. This leads us directly into phase 1, liquidating fixed costs. Now, I know people often recoil right about here. Everyone wants the secret to be some clever little budgeting app or a high-yield savings account. But look, a 5% yield is totally useless if you only have $200 to invest. So the crucial point is this massive number, 60%. Housing and transportation consume roughly 60% of the average income. If you want real capital, you can't just look at your grocery list. You have to look directly at your lease and your driveway. Think about the contrast here, because it highlights a deeply ironic reality in our society. The people who look like they're absolutely winning the financial game are very often the ones standing closest to the edge. The illusion of wealth is that leased luxury vehicle sitting outside a nice apartment. It looks great, but actually, it's just a massive recurring liability designed to look impressive. Actual wealth, on the other hand, that's a downsized living arrangement and a boring, reliable car that is entirely paid off. Launching a ruthless, all-out attack on these fixed costs for just a brief, intense 6-month window yields massive cash reserves. Yeah, it's aggressive, but man, is it highly effective. Moving right along, let's transition into phase 2, artificial scarcity. This phase gets into the true hidden mechanism of wealth accumulation. Most people pay their bills, buy their groceries, and promise themselves they'll save whatever's left over at the end of the month. But guess what? Nothing is ever left over. Parkinson's law explains exactly why. The concept states that demand for a resource will always expand to match its supply. And this brilliantly illustrates the psychological trap. It's like water filling a glass. If you have $2,000 sitting right there in your checking account, your brain automatically perceives your spending capacity as exactly $2,000. So, to beat your own brain, you've got to follow these steps to intercept your capital before you ever even see it. Step 1. You must intercept the money the exact moment it hits on payday. Step 2, automatically route 80% of your target savings to an entirely unseen institution. Honestly, preferably a bank with an interface you genuinely dislike. And step 3, delete the app from your phone entirely and throw away the debit card. Seriously, you literally have to make your everyday self look poor to your actual self. Now, we really need to shift our focus to a massive trap. Let's talk about the distraction of risk. Open literally any social media app today, and you are going to be bombarded by trendy influencers promising rapid wealth through crypto or speculative micro-investing. But we have to contrast that public hype with the counter-system reality. The hype sells volatile growth and total impatience. But listen to me on this. When you're in a high-velocity saving phase, your absolute primary enemy is risk. The market does not care about your timeline at all. True reality here is absolute defense, deliberate containment, and guaranteed capital preservation. Trying to grow small amounts quickly in the market isn't saving, it's gambling. The unvarnished truth of capital accumulation is that it is significantly less exciting than day trading. In fact, it's incredibly boring, which, by the way, is exactly why no one sells an online course about it. The goal here isn't to build massive wealth in 30 days. It's about creating a fortified position of absolute defense. Let's move to and see how this builds into the wider, urgent perspective of why we need this defense right now. And that reveals the ultimate stakes of this entire strategy. Cash equals optionality. So why does this intense defensive strategy matter so much right now? Because in our 2026 landscape, cash is no longer just a tool for consumption. It's the literal purchase of options. We are moving into an era defined by rapid technological displacement and constantly shifting employment landscapes. In this kind of unpredictable environment, lacking liquid capital is a massive, massive liability. Because without a financial reserve, you're forced to be compliant. You have to accept bad terms or stay stuck in dead-end roles simply because you can't afford a 3-month disruption to your income. I really want you to let this thought sink in. Fast saving is not about buying a better lifestyle later. It is about purchasing your autonomy now. That right there is the whole secret. But it requires a real trade-off. It means you have to step off the consumption treadmill while everyone else is still happily running on it. You have to tolerate the social discomfort of being entirely unimpressive to your peers for a while. The mechanism is clear, right? The math is completely undeniable. The only variable left in this equation is you. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. Are you actually willing to look poor to get rich, or do you just want to look rich while staying poor? Your autonomy depends entirely on your answer. Thanks for joining me for this one, and I'll see you next time.